Aditi, maybe we can wait for about 5 minutes and then start, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Shall we start, Aditi?
Yes, sure. So, thank you everyone for joining us today. We are part of Best Innovation University and World Forum for Education. Firstly, I would like to thank our Firstly, I would like to thank and recognize Chairman and retired IAS officer Bharatlal Meena ji, our Chancellor Dr. Rupa, our Vice Chancellor Dr. D.L. Maheshwar Lal, our Senior Advisor and retired IAS officer Dr. Manmohan Singh. Um, they are part of BESTIU, where they promote application oriented, value based learning. They create world class social conglomerate for learning and creating innovators. Their dedication is to make India a knowledge hub for learning and creating by contributing to their intellectual partner, which is World Forum for Education. The ethos of World Forum for Education is believing that education is much more than transmission of knowledge through our traditional systems or formal learning processes. It covers knowledge at all levels, right from our maybe learning at a school level all the way to a university to industrial professionals. So right now we are trying to showcase all the talent and place a platform for people to identify and inspire other next generation students and create positivity. So, one of our aims is to build and spread social networks, and our dedication is to capture and share these ideas and experiences at a national and international level. Today, the Career Series, which is hosted by World Forum for Education, is threefold. First, to provide real life experiences for the next generation. Second would be to give a platform for students to network with industrial experts, with leaders, with people who have real life experiences, and to give them a chance to evaluate the shortcomings of a certain field, learn from those, and make an informed decision about their career choice. Architecture has been my personal favorite career. I wanted to do it myself growing up. And today, we have architect Karan Daisaria joining us to give us some knowledge and background of why one would choose to do architecture. He's done his bachelor's at Rachna Sansad Academy for Architecture in Mumbai. He got his master's at in architecture and urban design from Columbia University in New York. And he is part of Daisaria Associates, which has a legacy of more than 60 years working in architecture. So he's doing a lot. He's very interested in training and educating students, mentoring them. And one of the things that he's agreed to do is talk to us today. He's received a national award for design and excellence by Ultratech Cement Design Challenge. His experiences range from townships to layouts, design making, creating concepts, iconizing, building public infrastructures to all the way to project management. So today I would like to invite you, Karan Daisaria, to talk to us and tell us why should one choose to be an architect.
Thank you so much, Aditi, for this extremely elaborate introduction. So, for those obviously who do not know, I also happen to know Aditi very personally. So, it's very nice to have this conversation years later to actually talk about art and architecture. So, hello everyone, and now considering all the big words that Aditi just spoke about me, let's go into the basics of architecture. Um, so when you tend to have a fascination towards, buildings or building technology, as children, I at least used to often play with Legos. Okay, and I used to try to create like these interesting forms of buildings and all of that. And I realized that I'm a lot to do. I have my inclination towards architecture and buildings. So essentially just buildings. And that's what, now there are 2-3 aspects when it comes to buildings, because one is the actual design of buildings. Second is the structure or the engineering that goes behind the building. And third is, the finance part of it, the marketing part of real estate and architecture. So now, all in all, it's about when I sort of went into the realm of design. Now, I often tell some of my students and interns at our office that what exactly is architecture. So, it's said that doctors give you life, architects give you a lifestyle. So it is all about, the kind of building you create, the kind of township you create, or the kind of environment, the built environment that you create is going to shape the way people are going to live, or is going to shape the way people are going to work in a particular atmosphere or environment. So I think it's a very vital form of, a career choice to be taken. Well, obviously there are repercussions because, unlike being a CA or being a doctor or probably being a lawyer, it's not going to make you mint money very easily. It's a struggle in the starting years of your career. But I think all in all, it's really worth it. Now, before we go into the money part, I think the basics of architecture are going to be 3 things. Number one, the aesthetics of design. So often there is a very big misconception about architecture that if I like drawing, I think I should go for architecture. No, it's not that. I think considering that I think Aditi just mentioned that she also wanted to do architecture. I'm not too sure if the interest was in the building side or was it on the side of that, okay, someone is fond of design and art. But there are various other realms of art and design when it comes to when you end up liking drawing, because there's commercial arts, there's graphic design, there is fashion design. A lot of those realms of design come into the picture when it's only about drawing. But when it's about technology, when it's about creating iconic structures, or not just iconic structures, when you talk about homes, when you want to design homes, when you want to design offices, that's more specific to actually designing a built environment, which is why architecture. Now, under architecture, there are various genres of architecture. Once you do your bachelor's, architecture also supposedly by a lot of articles is considered to be the toughest degree course in the world. Okay, so now I don't, if I say that again, I'll probably have 10, 20 viewers less, but it is very, very true because, it's also the longest degree course in India. So it's a 5-year course, out of which 6 months is expected for you to do an internship. So 4.5 years of rigorous, when I say rigorous training is because when you are sort of going into architecture, it's essentially not something which is, like it's not engineering or it's not, MBBS or something like that, where you have to sort of read and learn things. It's about creativity. It's about your passion that comes out on the paper. So it can probably take 2 hours. It can also take 2 months. So it's all about your passion towards your work and towards your ideas and thought processes. In the 5 years, generally, at least in most of the states of India, Aditi, are we talking India specific or world specific? How is this?
You can give us an idea about India, about how you would want to step out into the world as well.
Okay, so essentially, if you're a student from India or Pakistan or Sri Lanka, Dubai, these countries, especially the Indian subcontinent, has really good architecture colleges. You don't need to really go into that zone that, I need to do my bachelor's from somewhere else. No, that's not important. You can do your 5-year course from India itself. The colleges are amazing. There are also a lot of international affiliated universities that are in India, so that's not a problem. When you talk about picking a college, my only one recommendation will be, when you're picking a college, try to, if you're not staying in the same city, try to pick a college which also has accommodation services, because you will realize when you're doing your submissions, you don't know if it's 3 o'clock at night. So it's always better to have the accommodation services with it. Now, going on in terms of selection of a course now, and when do you actually realize that, okay, architecture is something I would like to do? So I think it's all about your personal fascinations with regards to what you are around, like what is around you. Okay, so one of my friends went into interior designing because of, which is also very similar to architecture, just a smaller subset of it, just because she used to like to decorate her own house. So that's just a simple, you have to understand your own personality and the gestures that you sort of have throughout your growing years post adolescence, that what is the, if you are really creative, because architecture has again this very urging scenario of being creative. It's one of those fields which does not look at the grays in your hair to give you work. Okay, so you don't need essentially experience to be a good architect. Something creative can also, kickstart your career. So, having said that, about again about education in India, it's fantastic. All around the Indian subcontinent is really really good. Now, talking about genres of architecture to pursue ahead in life after your 5 years. So, generally, it's a 5+2 or a 5+1 scenario where some of the colleges, maybe like so Canada, Australia, South Africa, parts of Europe, they all have 2-year courses, and most of US and Singapore, New Zealand, they have 1-year courses. So it really depends on which masters do you want to do. So there are 5 main genres after you go into architecture, which you would want to pick. One is advanced architectural design. So that looks at how a building is going to look from outside, the parametrics, a canopy, the facade. What is a facade? Is the building elevation, like the how the building looks from outside. So that's first, which is the advanced architectural design. Second is urban design, which looks at the bigger picture, the big vision, township developments. Also urban design comes into the picture a lot if you are someone from a developing country, because there's a lot of development that happens. Often, what happens that a lot of these cities go into these smart city developments, etc. So you definitely get a lot of exposure if you go into firms which do urban design. So the second realm is urban design. The third realm is real estate and project management, which is essentially related to uh, all from the inception of the project to the end of the project. How are things going to be managed? How are consultants going to be managed? How are the finances going to come in? How much is the marketing value? How are we going to market the project? How is the construction on site going to happen, etc., etc. So from pin to piano, everything about management of a project except design. Because design is obviously PMC, or a project management consultant is a consultant. So he comes on board only to manage the project, not to design it. Then comes the fourth realm, which is landscape design, which is essentially, it's similar to urban design, but not essentially urban design. So it's about all the land, all the greens, the built environment, whatever green is there in the built environment, that becomes a part of landscape design. And finally are the miscellaneous courses. Which are those miscellaneous courses? Like urban planning. Urban design and urban planning are two different things. Urban planning talks about, if you have a clean slate, okay, you have a clean slate and you do an urban planning project, an entire urban planning project, versus an urban design is an already existing infrastructure. You do an intervention. That's an urban design project. So, urban planning. So in the miscellaneous courses, there's urban planning, there is furniture design, product design, there is lighting design. So there are so many things. So everything, I can guarantee you, the environment that you're right now sitting in while listening to this session has a minimum of 5 or 4 very important consultants that have made you or let you be in this environment. So obviously it's the architect, it's the interior designer, it's probably the lighting designer, it's probably the designer of your city or the town planner of your city. So essentially, like what I said in the start, it's that course which gives you that it's sort of like the facilitator of the lifestyle of people. Oh, I spoke a lot.
No, that was really informative. And also, If anyone feels like turning on their videos, that's fine too. Just wanted to put it out there. I wanted to know how difficult is it to build a portfolio? Because I know that for students, that's one of the main things. They build a portfolio, they have to submit it to the school to get accepted. So how long do you take into training into this process and building a portfolio?
Okay, so I think building a portfolio is a very, very subjective question actually to answer, because it depends on person to person and depends on which university, which kind of college are you applying to. So essentially, the first and foremost thing is that you have to figure out what are the entrance exams and what are the preparations that you need to do for your entrance exams. So most of the times it's after the 12th standard. There are some colleges that allow you to go into architecture after the 10th standard as well, which is the 10th grade, or I think it's called, I don't know what is it called in the US, but it basically means after the 10th grade that you can go. So otherwise, most of the colleges need a 10+2. And after that, you can apply for a 5-year course in architecture. And about how difficult it is to build your portfolio, it's honestly just a matter of an aesthetic sense. So once you have that, you develop that over a period of time. Trust me, in my first year, I was pathetic. Okay, I mean, when I look at my drawings, I want to just close them and not see them again. So I think it's something that you want to, you sort of build over a period of time. And that's about it, I think. But to be very accurate or objective about how difficult it is to make your portfolio, more than difficult, I think it's time consuming and it deserves that time. So if you give that time to portfolio building, it is going to always be helpful. Because also, one thing that I would definitely recommend not to do for students is do not open Google and Pinterest before starting your portfolio, because you are always going to imitate someone else's work. Don't try to do that. Try to first develop your theme, and then maybe parts of the theme you can sort of try to figure out, okay, this is something I would like to do, something similar. So first make your own theme format of your portfolio and then sort of start referencing it.
Right. Okay. So is there any particular colleges that you think have set apart ideas that you really look up to, or you would really like, that's your aspiration, that's your dream, kind of?
So I actually have a big exclamation on the educational system of most of the developing cities, all over the world. Because to be very honest, even in spite of doing 4 years or 5 years of architecture in whichever country you are in, what you'll realize is that when you're actually going to the professional field, you will realize that, damn, I don't know this. Like, how do I do this? So, and I think it happens with, obviously, like even in when you're a doctor, you're probably not actually doing a real operation. If you still have not done a real operation, you will not know how to, you'll not have the confidence of saving someone's life. So similarly, I think it's, I often correlate it with being a lawyer or a doctor. It is all about, understanding that the professional field is going to need something completely different, which is why the internship, honestly, I think the internships are way more important than the colleges that you take. Okay. Sometimes there is a little bit of, sometimes you may have not got the best of marks in your entrance exams, etc. That's why you may have to compromise on the college, but you can definitely redeem yourself in the first 2 years of, your professional career. So I think it's, rather than me saying whether it's more, if it's important to have the right college, I think I'd rather say that it's more important to pick the right office to intern in, and the right office to eventually start your career. More objectively, if you tell me, there are good universities all over the world, but the reason why I'm not naming them is because it's not that it's because these are the universities I'm aware of. And I don't want to say that, okay, these are the ones that are good and then, there are others that are not, because I'm not someone who's aware of all the universities across the world. But yes, if you want to have a dream college, like I always had a dream college, and luckily my dream got fulfilled. Was I wanted to go to Columbia and do my master's there. So Columbia University, obviously in New York, is one of the best universities. Obviously, any of the Ivy Leagues are going to be really good for you to go into that. But trust me, there are colleges in like the most of hinterland of Glasgow or somewhere in Milan, somewhere in Bern, they are also fantastic. So it's not that it's the college that matters. It's actually your learning. The way you're going to learn is way more important than the college that you pick. Okay? Yeah.
So when you talk about internships, how difficult is it to get an internship during your first college years?
So again, I think it depends on the the city and the country you're in. Most of the times, internship is not okay. So architectural interns are really underpaid. Not just interns, but architects also are very underpaid. So I mean, it's easier to get internships because they're not going to like pay you a lot. So the offices are rather okay with paying less amount but hiring interns because there is work. Okay. But otherwise, I think when it comes to how difficult it is to get an internship, that's where your portfolio comes into the picture. Because then you have already had like a 4-year experience into the course and you've sort of understood that, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm passionate about. And that's how you would want to, a small thing about architecture is that more than what you design, you have to be better at how well you market your design.
Right.
So that's why your portfolio and the way you present your portfolio is way more important. So I think, that's when it comes in the picture. But if I have to give a rating on how difficult it is to get an internship, I think it's like 2 or 3 because you'll end up getting an internship for sure.
Okay. Because I know that some other fields are probably more competitive and, you don't get an internship that easily.
No, so
that's the reason why I asked.
So Aditi, what happens is, I think there's competition because, for example, if someone is going to, if there are like, say, 50 or 100 firms in a particular city, a lot of interns are going to get, sort of scattered. But I mean, Mumbai itself has 35,000 firms.
Wow. So, that was my exact question. Like, are there enough opportunities?
Yeah, there are enough opportunities. And to be very honest, in terms of architecture, like, for example, in terms of architecture, you don't need I'm sorry, I keep giving this correlation with a doctor, but you don't need a clinic to actually practice something. You can be a freelancer working from home and still practice architecture without that's a little bit of a benefit there because you can freelance for probably the starting years of your career. But I would always recommend to first practice in an office, learn the system, then eventually freelance. And when you're freelancing, before you invest in a particular place, as your office, you should first grab the right kind of work, be at your you can obviously operate from home because it's all about the softwares and the laptop. As long as you have a laptop, it's going to be your laptop is your office for the first few years of your life. So, and you should be okay with that because that's what is going to make you earn money, right? And I think one thing about architecture, what I have realized in the start of my career itself, is that there are going to be projects which are your bread and butter, and then there are going to be projects which are your passion projects. Now, the day when both of them come together, your life is made. Because passion projects become your bread and butter. That's when your life is set. You can't. That's when I think I recently heard Priyanka Chopra's interview, and she said that I'm living a life from where I don't need a vacation from. So that's when architecture will really, because honestly, it's one of those genres where you'll constantly be creative. Like right now, I'm already thinking what I'm going to talk to my client tomorrow. So it sort of puts you in that sort of realm of continuously thinking, for sure.
Right.
I have a question, Karan. Hi, Karan.
Yes, ma'am. Hi.
Hi. So, what is the ideal time for the students
Can
to
you
start?
Can you talk louder?
Hello?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what is the ideal time for the students? I mean, when do you start recommend them to start preparing for their entrance exams?
Okay. I think the right time to start going into this direction of starting to prepare would be after your 10th standard boards. Okay, so I think the education system has sort of changed now, but I'm not too sure. I'm not updated because I don't have anyone who's in school right now. But at least if you're in India, I think after 10th grade for sure, because you'll be giving your entrance exams after the 12th grade. So the 2 years is a good enough time, and obviously, so it's not like mugging up something, right? So it's just practicing drawing, practicing aesthetics, practicing understanding composition, perspectives, all of those things. So it sort of takes time a little. So I think I would recommend you to start after 10th standard.
But do you also, so you said there is a course which also has, like, it is also done after the 10th grade. Do you
Yeah, but not in India.
I know. But
Yeah.
do you recommend students to do it after the 10th grade, or you recommend them to do it after the 12th grade?
No. So if you skip those 2 years before architecture, you will end up regretting 4 years after doing architecture. So I will always recommend you to do the 12th grade, and then, because the base science that you get. Okay, also it's not important for you to do science. You to take science to become an architect. You can even do commerce, and now you can even do arts in when you're in India. So that should not be a problem. But I do feel one thing is that as soon as you've done like 11th and 12th, I think there is a more sense of stability and maturity that comes into you to take up a profession like architecture. And that's the reason I would rather wait for 2 years.
Okay. Thank you for the information.
No problem.
Okay, I would like to open up the platform to other questions from students.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Hi, Rahul. Yes.
Sir, I am a student of agriculture, sir, and I am interested in designing, sir.
Okay.
What are the tools to learn, sir? All added.
What kind of designing are you interested in?
Sir, in architect.
Architecture. Okay. Which
Yes.
like how old are you?
Sir, now I am 20, sir.
Okay. So what are you? You said you're a student in agriculture.
Yes, sir. At Best University, yes, sir.
I can't hear him actually, Aditi.
Sir, I am the student of agriculture, sir.
Okay, student. Oh, okay. Where are you from, Rahul?
I am from Karnataka, sir.
Okay. So now the thing is that there are also these what you can do is you can opt for, I mean, if you have to firstly understand that what kind of designing you are into. Whether you want to go into designing buildings or whether you want to go into designing homes, offices. Are you more of an interior designer? Are you more of an exterior designer? What are you liking more? And then there are smaller courses as well. Like, you don't need to take up the main architecture. If you want to practice as an architect, you need to obviously do the 4 years of training. But there are a lot of secondary sort of online courses which can make you a designer, and then you can still have your own practice in terms of facilitating design. There is a lot of vernacular architecture. So if you are in a smaller town, etc., you can practice how to build homes and how to build spaces using local materials, using local technology. So that will be a very good asset when it comes to you being an agriculture student, because you obviously are very close to the soil. You have an understanding of what kind of soil is there, what kind of building materials or materials are available across your town or city. So I think that is also something you could do. What you should research is you should research into the kind of vocational courses that are available in your city, and then opt for one of them. I will 100% not recommend you to go into architecture because you've already taken up agriculture. Yes, it can. The type of architecture that I would recommend you to study about is vernacular architecture. Karnataka also has some beautiful firms who are doing wonderful local architectural works, from bamboo to mud to stone, using local ethnic Indian materials and building homes. So I think that's something that you should definitely look into.
Sir, polyhouses and agriculture fields, sir, on that anything?
Sorry?
Sir, polyhouses and agriculture fields, sir, on that anything design?
I am
Polyhouses.
Aditi?
agriculture, basically something to tie in agriculture, like building farmlands or something.
Absolutely. So when it comes to, that's why I'm saying, so when it is about agriculture and architecture, that's the thing that is going to bring you to closer to that is going to be vernacular architecture. Vernacular architecture is the one that ties building materials, farming, local techniques, and all of that together. So you should, that's something that you should definitely look for. Is there a place where you can chat? I'll just type it out for him. Yeah.
Yeah, there is. Yes.
Can I ask a question? I'm
Yes,
Arushi.
hi. Yes, hi, Arushi.
So, how can a person know his or her acumen in agriculture? Like, how can a person know that he or she is good in agriculture?
You mean architecture?
Sorry, architecture.
Yeah, because agriculture, I also don't know if I'm good at agriculture.
Sorry, architecture.
Yeah, so architecture, so there's something called as the aptitude test that you need to give post your 10th grade, where the test providers will give you an analysis of how good are you at aesthetics and how good are you at the aptitude of technology and mathematics, understanding how well can you visualize things. So for example, if I give you, sorry, I don't have anything else, I'll just give you this box. So if I have a box like this, if I tilt this box like this and there is a sun from this side, which side is the shadow going to fall maximum? An aptitude test. Okay, so it's about understanding and visualizing spaces. So that aptitude test is something that you need to give post 10th grade. It's a career counseling test. Okay, it's most of them are available in most of the cities across the world. So you should not hire any consultant. Don't even prepare for it. I will honestly not prepare for it. I would go with my gut. Okay, because if you prepare for it, you're already pushing yourself towards one field. So don't do that. Okay, go unprepared, and actually there's not much of preparation. Also, they'll give you something just off the hand, and you'll understand that, okay, are you more into the aesthetics part? Are you more into the technical part? Are you more into the creative part? So that's what is going to help you guide. But if you want to guide yourself, if you want to understand whether you have interest towards it or not, it's actually on the basis of your what you actually observe in your day-to-day life. Okay, like for me, if I'm driving across, I don't think Aditi has experienced that, but if I'm driving across, I will 100% pause at least 3 times if I've seen a beautiful building. Okay, it's just my thing. Okay, so I think it's about understanding what you are visualizing, what is grabbing your attention, etc. Like I have a friend who used to, I'll just give this small example where she was into design. She really liked designing and all of that. She went into architecture, but 2 years later, she realized that, she's liking interiors and all of that, but she's more into seeing how shoes are made. So she became a shoe designer. So, she was always fascinated with how shoes were made and all that. So it's very important for you to be very observant about what fascinates you and what interests you. I'll take a small example again. Do not take something because, okay, you're going to see a lot of people becoming doctors and lawyers and, not that many scientists, but still. Architecture is not something which is going to be seen that often. So I think it's something that you should, it sort of puts you apart from the crowd, I feel, because it has a creative edge to it. So that's how you'll understand, whether that you're made for that field or not.
Thank you. So I'll surely think of seeing in what ways am I good in architecture, finding out more.
But don't restrict yourself, Arushi. Don't restrict yourself to understanding whether you're good at architecture. It's something that if you're anything related to design, if you're going to have like some other speakers who are going to talk about something related to other kinds of design, there can be a fashion designer, there can be a shoe designer, there can be a furniture designer. All of those things are design. Okay, but you have to be observant of what you're actually observing all throughout the day, or what you're sort of liking all throughout the day. So yeah, it's about that. It's not about just architecture.
Yeah.
Personally, I took that aptitude test after my 10th grade and after my 12th grade as well, I was the most confused student. So this whole seminar series, cropped up from an idea that I was as confused as a student, and my aptitude was for architecture, and I ended up not doing it. So it is really important to know what your needs are, what your goals are, and also understanding that what you pick in the end should make you happy. So
absolutely. Yes. Anyone else, guys?
Good evening, sir.
Yes. Hi.
Sir, what are opportunities in Indian government for architecture, sir?
Indian government. Okay. So you can talking about it briefly. There are obviously every city has its own governing body which looks into planning and architecture. Most important is the town planning department of your city, which is the one that hires architects. Okay, as town planners or as urban designers or as architects themselves or even as landscape designers, but not as much scope as much as engineers and doctors in the fraternity of governments. I'll be very honest. I think it's architecture is more of a, if I may say, it's more of a white collar job. So it's not something which is very related to the government.
Hi, can I ask a question, Aditi?
yes, of course.
Okay,
Yes.
it's a little off the cuff. Hi, Karan. It was
Hi.
a pleasure hearing you, and yeah, very relevant points and quite insightful and informative, because it's to do
Thank
with architecture and design. No matter what background you come from, I think it is relevant for each one of us because we are at some point building something or trying to
Absolutely.
make something. So I think it's beautiful that way. I was just wondering to know, in architecture, have we lost touch with the values of our traditional, especially rural society, in the modern architecture, in the contemporary designs that you make? Because we go back in history of 2,500 years, yeah. So, with our rich traditional culture and architecture, right from north to south to central India. So, how much do you think you get? You have clients who really do work with our traditional and cultural, rural kind of.
Values.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As an
I think
architect,
that
how many of the customers do that? Because we are building something now and we plan to start off, we have a very modern architecture that we are building for our university, but I would like to have beautiful touches. And when I say this, I don't mean vastu because the moment I say tradition, people connected to vastu. No,
no.
not vastu. It's emerging from the countryside. We have a rich countryside architecture. So how do you think we can make nice cusp between the both and still build something phenomenally beautiful? Yeah.
Right. So I think that's a fantastic question because that's something, when I sort of went into architecture and eventually, started practicing with my father, that's one of the few questions that I had asked him first. That,
Yeah. Okay.
Papa, I mean, we learn so much and we are so close to our community, our modes of practicing. Also, that's what I think puts India a little apart, or I think that, the cultural values of our country put us apart from, the general Western world architecture that we call it. But unfortunately, what's happened is that there is a clear bifurcation in terms of the tiers of the city. So the tier 1 cities, which are obviously all the 8 metros and also the upcoming 8 metros of the city, of the country, and the tier 2 cities, which are the you have Indore, you have there's Howrah, there are all the tier 2 cities which are supported by the tier 1 city. And then there are tier 3, which are the towns and smaller cities, etc. So all the architectures of all these 3 tiers are very, very, very different. Okay, in tier 1, all the clients talk about is profit. Okay, it's all most of it is a money-making business, and it's extremely privatized. It's about the maximum, what we call it, the FSI or the FAR. It's the maximum, how much ever you can build. Okay, I want to make 20 floors. No, but if I'm able to make 24 floors, I'll make 25, but I'll not make 23. So it's about that, that mode of profit building that has come into the picture when it comes to tier 1 cities of architecture, in terms of architecture. But yes, there are a lot of practices across India that focus on vernacular and local architecture and values of the heritage architecture. If you pick up excerpts from one of my personal favorite architects, that's Didi Contractor. So she does work in all across Kashmir, Arunachal Pradesh, Shimla. So there they build structures out of only and only local materials. Okay, and none of those structures. So there's something called as these now comes into the picture, the RCC, which is reinforced concrete cement, plus the steel. Right, so most of it is this kind of architecture, but then there is another kind of architecture, which is the load-bearing architecture. That's how the temples and all our ancient monuments most of them were made. Okay, there are architectural firms and there are government bodies that still believe in this system of load-bearing architecture, not just because it's it's actually more time-consuming, to be honest, but the passive results of that are really good. So the long-term results are really nice. For example, such structures did not require any artificial air conditioning. They're all passively cooled by the natural environment. So these aspects are definitely there, but but unfortunately in cities like Mumbai or Pune, Delhi, Noida, Bangalore, Chennai, it's very difficult to find these kind of practices, because the only mode of saying that, okay, we believe in green architecture, there are a lot of people who will say that we believe in green architecture but end up putting tons and tons of glass on their buildings. So, it's a very off environment, but yes, absolutely. I don't think there is any social responsibility.
I think we need
actually
to
going to sugarcoat this, but there is no social responsibility in the tier 1 cities when it comes to it being to our heritage and our ecology.
Very true, and it's important that we flaunt our regional identity.
Absolutely,
it's important to express our local traditions in also our architecture. So that's something I fail to see in everyday life, especially in cities. So thank you, Karan. Thank you. Very well answered. Thanks.
No problem. Thank you so much. Yes, I think the Vice Chancellor has some.
Mr. Karan. You have really thrown some insights for our agriculture students, in the sense you are into architecture, and our students and core area in the rural area is agriculture. How we can able to blend agriculture and architecture? The reason is, in the low space, lesser space, we are supposed to go for higher output. Now we are not going for the horizontal ways of production. We're going for vertical ways of production. It is multiple cropping, it is vertical garden. You see, in such being the case, what type of cropping designs and plans, maybe that is the one which we can able to come out as innovations in crop planning, crop production, yield management, crop combinations. Then even in the solar, see, we have to design such a way that those which are very close to the solar absorption versus lesser ones. So this type of we may call architecture, crop architecture. So in that way, I am sure that there is an opening, an avenue for these type of things to be incorporated, which is hardly we can see in any of the educational curriculum.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to sorry, I'm just going to add to this question to myself itself that there is with I think 3 or 4 questions surrounding heritage and agriculture and the local communities. There should be something that we should invent in ourselves. This sort of a new course of agri-tecture. Okay, a clubbing of agriculture and architecture. And now, unfortunately,
wow, that's wonderful.
So now that's not something that we see in firms, in offices also, and even in colleges and universities. Something that they honestly promote, like Man Chancellor rightly pointed out. In some way or the other, we all are building communities. We are all building lifestyles. We are all building people, we're building lives. So why not this merger as well? Now, often what happens is that when it comes to architecture, it is mainly related to, unfortunately, people often try to relate architecture with making something iconic. I mean,
Right.
I don't think that's the basis of architecture. Architecture is about facilitating something which is useful to people. So there is often a battle. What comes first, form or function? Okay, so whenever this question comes in case of agritecture, it's always supposed to be the function. Function should be given much higher importance than the form. Okay, and in tier 1 and 2 cities, it's the form that is given more importance. It's the output that is given more, output of the structure that is given more importance than the actual lifestyle of the people living there. Okay, so I'll give you a small example. There are a lot of these SRA projects, which is slum rehabilitation. Okay, so you have a lot of these communities which are living in, these what I call it as urban villages. Mumbai has the largest slum in the world, Asia, sorry, which is Dharavi. Now, Dharavi is responsible for 41% of the GDP of Mumbai. Okay, without it being actually developed. It's been developed by people, by communities. There is no architect that has gone and designed a slum there, right? But honestly, if you enter into, now people say that Dharavi is like, a very dirty place, etc., etc. Honestly, if you go into this, into the lanes of Dharavi, trust me, it is more cleaner than the garbage dump that is at the alley of your own lane. Because they believe that, the place they live, the place that builds their community should always be clean. Okay? These are obviously shanty towns. But going back to your part of, going to local communities and agriculture and merging them with architecture, I think it's, in that concern, honestly, every farmer is an architect. You don't even need a degree. I think when you build your own house, when you build your own space, your own environment, and how you sort of impact people's lives through what you're doing itself is a form of architecture. But obviously, the reason why I can say that is because he is not someone who's probably going to go to, apply to a foreign university for doing a master's. He's just living there for his own lifestyle, right? But agritecture, which is, just a term that we just spoke about today, is something that should bring you closer to your own realities of your culture, right? Again, saying very honestly, it's not applicable that much into the tier 1, tier 2 cities, but it's utmost important that it brings you, very close to the environment. So it's technically called as a corporate social responsibility to be ecologically friendly, but here it's a personal social responsibility to be as vernacular, as locally involved as possible. And honestly, people should promote that because there is no competition there. You will not see a farmer competing with another farmer or a local architect competing with another local architect to try to build a bigger house. That's not the intention. To make a more efficient house, it is. But here you will have a building which is 30 floors. The neighboring plot will want to make 32 floors, and then after that there'll be someone who will want to make 300 floors. There's never an end to it. Okay, we're getting too attached to this whole idea of we keeping on wanting to build taller and taller. So because honestly, even if we say that India is going to have the next Burj Khalifa, it can afford it because obviously we have a wonderful government who still sanctions 3,600 crores for Shivaji structures. I am saying some things which are probably not supposed to be said, but that is true. If we have money for such kind of work, there's obviously money to build taller, but the cities only don't have the right infrastructure. If you build so tall, and if, say, for example, some mishap happens, the city infrastructure is not strong enough to hold it. Rather, the rural infrastructure is. The rural infrastructure can actually hold community living and can hold the agri-texture of.
That's why? Because, in our, new curricula, new syllabus and the new programs, we are supposed to bring in these things. So these are really called as creative and innovative things. So in a small area with multiple, not from mono to multiple. So if those things have been incorporated, integrated as a package, I'm sure that there the role of the this called geometry, you call crop geometry, or you call architecture, whatever they call, to scope of this natural resources, both under the soil and above the soil. So there is a lot of scope for designing this type of high productive outputs from a low area. So that's where we have to see for some architectural plans. Well, we will certainly come back to you to see that how we can able to give some models and modules to our students and the university. Thank you, Karan. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Karan, hi, this is Vasu here. Can I ask? It's more of a reflection and not a question. Okay. So on one side, when we talk about architecture, and let me take a name here, the Infosys campus, okay, which is in Bangalore. There are some buildings which look bizarre. Yeah, when I say bizarre, it's like so we call it, one building looks like a washing machine, the another building looks like
which one are you talking about?
The Electronic City.
No, not the building. Which campus are you talking about?
Electronic City. Yeah. So you got something which looks like a washing machine, the other one which looks like a rocket which is tilted, sideways and all of that. It really looks very, bizarre, so as to say, or crazy designs. Yeah? That's on one side. The other side, and again, this is not connected to this one, but we've been traveling across different countries, and in some countries where we've traveled. So, for example, we traveled to Spain and Bhutan and a couple of other places. And we could see that the government or the local people out there, they take pride in maintaining certain design structures. Okay, so for example, if you go to Bhutan, the window has to be of a common design across. Yeah, Spain, for example, the buildings which are there in specific lanes, you cannot do any alterations to the interiors as well, because they would want to maintain the kind of the sanctity which each of these cities have and the look of those cities, right? So my question is, or more as a reflection, is that architecture is all about bringing in that creativity. But where do you draw the line between things getting bizarre and where you try to maintain the authenticity of that specific place? I hope I've been able to make my question.
Absolutely. And I'm again going to say something which may put me into trouble, but a country that cannot decide on a common ground of which government should be handling the country, do you think they can decide on which kind of architecture should be there in a particular city? Absolutely not. So I think it is very, very rather bizarre to sort of as soon as you give a guideline that okay, this is what you can do and this is what you cannot do, then there is no sort of intervention of something which is creative. Okay. Now to answer your question about bizarre, so Vasudevan, I don't know. I just checked out what the campus that you just spoke to me about. That building has actually featured on top 100 buildings in India. Okay. So by Architecture Digest. So it's person to person. There are things that I may like. There's probably a building that in New York that I really like, and if I take Aditi there, she'd be like, "What is this?" So, which is why a creative field is always going to be very subjective. I do understand that there can be a majority people who disalign with a particular building or a particular sense of design, but there can never be a guideline. As soon as there is a guideline, creative is what. As soon as there is a guideline, for example, say someone has, if there's ever a doctor here, he's going to really rip me apart because I always give medical examples. But if there's, for example, there's a fracture, okay, and it says that no, you have to put only these many screws and only these many rods to fix the fracture, maximum. But what if you need to use more? What if you need to use less? So if that flexibility is not given, a designer can also not explore the realms of design. Okay, that is my personal opinion. Although I absolutely agree to your take that it is a bizarre building. But yes, I think a guideline cannot be really put into picture. There are basic guidelines per city. There are which are called the building guidelines or the building bylaws. That okay, you have to have these many toilets, these many so and so staircases, etc., which are the functional requirements. But aesthetically, I don't think there can be. I mean, aesthetically, even Manhattan tried to do that. But you're going to see various different kind of architecture, all over the city, all over the island of Manhattan itself. You walk across one entire lane or a big alley, you will see a completely black glass building versus on the right, you will see a sort of a heritage structure with classical ornamentation. So there cannot be a guideline. I think it is meant to be a designer to designer perspective. And I think we should give that leverage. I'm going to take the architect's side here.
Sure. Thanks, Karan.
No problem.
So I have a disaster question. Do you get opportunities to create landscapes for forests and dams? And how difficult is it to get into this project?
Sorry, do you get opportunity to do what?
Sir, opportunities.
Lakshmi, can you be louder, please?
Yes, sir. Opportunities to create landscapes for forests and dams. And how difficult is it to get into these projects?
Okay, you cannot develop a forest land. It is considered under the or the NDZ, which is NA is natural areas or NDZ is the no development zone. Only thing you can do is some amounts of tourist activities you can develop. But for that, either you have to be sourced you have to be very close to the or a part of the government agency who's under the realm of which that forest comes, or you have to be a part of an urban design or an urban planning firm. But individually, no.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so I think okay, go ahead.
Vaishnavi, I think, has a question.
Yes. Sir, I love designing using waste materials such as bottle threads and other materials. I want to learn more about it. Is there an online place for it, sir?
You said you like to do designing from waste materials.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Particular course for it, I'm actually not the right person to answer this, but you can definitely go into, there's something called as the green architecture or ecological architecture. But if you're saying that you're doing like best out of waste and all of that, that's something more of a artisty sort of a realm. It's not necessarily building something, so I'll not be the right person to tell you this. I don't want to give any wrong advice.
Okay, sir.
Okay, well, I think we can try and conclude this session now. It's been a long hour.
And I didn't. Oh my God! It's 9:03. I didn't realize.
So I would like to thank everyone for joining us. Again, a very big thank you to our chairman, IS Bharatlal Meena, sir, and our chancellor, Dr. Rupa, our vice chancellor, Dr. D.L. Maheshwar, senior advisor and retired IAS officer, Dr. Manmohan Singh. I also want to recognize Mr. Shazil, who is our chief technical officer and has helped us host this entire session and make it so smooth and successful. So if you all have any further questions, you can always email us at info@bestiu.com. And also, if you want to have a personal chat session with Karan, we can try and make that happen too. Okay, so thank you everyone. And
thank you guys.
And here next week as well.
There's the pandemic.
Yes, and please stay safe, stay healthy. It's getting crazy everywhere, and we are almost there with the vaccine.
And I always say this, that a mask is always better than corona, so remember that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Karan. Thank you, Aditi. Wonderful hosting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.